Before we get into this latest story, don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Lost in Los Llanos, Colombia. It was, like most things in my life have been, more by accident than design. My 7-month stint in 2025 living in Los Llanos, Colombia's vast plains and renowned cowboy country. For most of that time, San Martin was the base. This was thanks to an invite to do a bout of house-sitting for an American native. That's a USA American, for the sticklers amongst us, a guy who I'd only befriended in December 2024. Thanks to that, from February to early May I lived in relative comfort. In fact, it was close to my ideal, a furnished place to myself in a town with a nice vibe to it. Close enough to my Goldilocks zone. When that house-sitting stint ended, I still wasn't keen on an indefinite return to Bogotá, the place that has been my default setting in Colombia. So when I found a furnished studio apartment, of sorts, for an agreeable 450,000 Colombian pesos per month, bills included, and with the option to pay fortnightly, I took it. This led to another 2.5 months in San Martin. Then came an offer I couldn't refuse. A furnished room with kitchen access for 160,000 pesos per month in Granada. This arose thanks to the partner of that American for whom my house sat in San Martin. It was her sister who had the room. So even though I was fairly content, if not tremendously productive, in San Martin, the chance to significantly reduce my overheads appealed. What's more, having stayed in Granada on previous occasions in 2024, returning wasn't a big deal. I knew what to expect. 20 kilometres south of San Martin, it's roughly twice as big as its neighbour. To give Granada a one-word description, it's grand. That's the Irish grand, which means fine. Not fantastic, but not too terrible either. Middle of the road. One area, though, where Granada rates highly, if one puts importance on value for money, is in the cheapness of eating out. This is because there are 4, that I know of, restaurants that sell breakfasts and lunches for 5,000 pesos. Similar fare would be at least double that in Bogotá and other cities and towns. For me, these meals are in the popular 3 Bs, bueno, bonito, barato category. That's bueno for good, bonito for nice or pretty, and barato for cheap. That last B is undisputed, whatever about the other 2, which are more subjective. While I haven't tried the breakfasts, this is due to my version of intermittent fasting, the lunches are filling and wholesome. And, in at least one of the establishments, meals are served late into the afternoon. It's not a case of having little to nothing available after 2 p.m, as often happens in other such places. The main dish usually comes with a mixture, if you ask for a mixture that is, of beans, peas, chickpeas, pumpkin, plantain, and a token salad. Okay, the chicken, meat and fish portions are puny, but the soup starter, often a sancocho, a type of stew with a mixture of root vegetables and rough cuts of beef or chicken, is hearty. It's almost a meal in its own right. So with such a selection for 5,000 pesos, you really couldn't buy the ingredients and cook them at home more cheaply. Trust me, I've done the experiment. Not with all the same ingredients, albeit. I do, however, still like to cook my own meals. This is chiefly because I enjoy cooking, I have the free time these days to do so, and, in doing so, I have greater control over what I consume. It's why, for the month or so I had in the 160,000 pesos per month room in Granada, I ate the 5,000 peso meals no more than 6 times. The town is also hard to beat for agreeably priced beer. Unhealthily so, it could be said, in that it may encourage one to drink more than desired. My tienda of choice, Doña Rosa's, sells 750ml bottles of Tecate for 3,000 pesos, with the same volume of Costeña for 3,500 pesos. It's as cheap as you'll get in the country. Now, while Granada might be good for keeping the costs down, it's less appealing in other aspects. And no, I'm not referring to the fact that it's said to be controlled by leftist guerrillas. If that is the case, it happens on a different level to my humble comings and goings. For the record, San Martin and most places north of that town in the Meta department are in the hands of the right-wing paramilitaries, so it goes. From Granada southwards, down into Guaviare, it's largely guerrilla territory. One drawback is that Granada lacks an inviting natural watercourse nearby. Yes, there is the visually impressive River Ariari, but it's 6 kilometres from the town, so a tad far to be a comfortable walking option. OK, it can be refreshing to go for a dip on reaching the river after the walk, but then one is faced with the trek back in heat regularly in excess of 30 degrees Celsius. Cycling would be a better option if one was going to be based in the town long enough to make investing in a bike pay off, that is. There is a smaller river that flows through the outskirts of the town just north of the hospital. Alas, the one acceptable bathing spot it has is, unsurprisingly, very popular. It's regularly filled with screaming children and revellers blaring mindless music from portable speakers, the Colombian standard. Not only that, but its rather murky waters aren't that enticing. The waters of San Martin's Caño Camoa, in contrast, are clearer, and the river offers a selection of more secluded bathing spots, although on Sundays and holidays that seclusion tends to get smashed. Another plus point for San Martin is that it has more tranquil, as in traffic light and with a feeling of being in nature, loop roads to wander. I didn't find anything quite as tranquil in Granada. In addition, San Martin has a 130-step mirador, a viewing tower, to ascend, offering views of the seemingly never-ending plains to the south and east, with the alluring Andes introducing themselves to the north and west. The tower also doubles up as decent exercise, especially if one ascends and descends it a few times in a row. On top of all this, in San Martin, I was given Wi-Fi access in La Reina, my panaderia office there. I never had this privilege in the various panaderias I frequented in Granada. What's more, the friendly staff at the rustic library in San Martin had no issue in giving me the building's Wi-Fi password. No such service came from the more modern but quite tacky library in Granada. Only in Doña Rosa's tienda did I have Wi-Fi in Granada, another pull factor, if one were needed, to her cheap beer. Whilst based in Granada, I did visit 2 other Llanos towns, spending a few nights in both. San Juan de Arama, 20 kilometres southwest of Granada, has little going for it. About the best I can say is that it's fairly quiet. Llanos, 40 kilometres west of Granada, at the foothills of the Andes, overlooking the broad river Guape as it flows at pace towards the plains, has much more to it. Its setting alone is satisfying. In fact, on that front, I think it's the best of the 4 towns mentioned here. That it has another river nearby, a much smaller one than the Guape, where one can relax unperturbed, is a bonus. There's something about listening to the flow of water in a relatively unspoilt natural setting that puts one at ease. Thanks to its proximity to both the Guape and the Andes, there's a freshness to the air that's lacking in Granada. Granted, Granada is far bigger and is a significant transport hub in these parts. With that, it has more people, more vehicles, more concrete, and thus more pollution. One minor negative for Llanos is that it's a buchona-free town. The big 750ml beer bottles aren't available. This is the case for many small towns in Colombia that are a fair distance from their department capitals. It's a manageable inconvenience all the same, and better for my health as I have a rough beer budget that I like to stick to, i.e. I measure my beer drinking by cost rather than volume. In any case, it's not a lack of beer that's my problem these days. No, one of my main issues right now is finding income-generating work, something for which Los Llanos bears little responsibility, even if I do find the hot climate unconducive to doing computer work. Sort my income issues out and I'd have no problem taking up residence again in San Martin, Llanos or Granada, more or less in that order of preference. One could be in worse places than lost, in thought, in Los Llanos.
Have you subscribed to this channel yet? If not, why not do so right now? It's free and only takes a second. Thanks!